Back in 1984, we were introduced to a world of robots in disguise. More than meets the eye and all that jazz. And while yeah, the Decepticons were cool, jets, animals, Walkmans, I was all about the good guys. A fleet of sleek sports cars transforming into heroic Autobots? Now that was my jam. And no sports car fired up my imagination more than the Lamborghini Countach, a car that basically was the pinnacle of 80s supercar excess. So it was no surprise that right out of the gate, my two favorite Autobots were the Lambros, Sideswipe and Sunstreaker. Wait a minute. Something doesn't look quite right here. So, who's your favorite Transformer? Yeah, I know that's a rather broad question, so let's narrow it down. Favorite Autobot? For me, that answer's been locked in since day one. Sunstreaker. And by default, his twin brother Sideswipe has to be right up there too. Ever since those two came roaring down that cliffside road to rescue Trailbreaker from a couple of Seekers, then immediately followed it up with a little casual jet judo on Starscream and Company, the Lambo Bros were cemented as all-timers for me. And what's not to love? Sure, they turned into what was arguably the coolest supercar of the 80s, but personality-wise, these guys were anything but bland Autobots. As per their tech specs, Sideswipe, the red one, relishes a fight to the finish with an opponent, uses underhanded tactics when absolutely necessary. He may not break rules, but like Beckham, he bends them. A lot. Then there's Sunstreaker, yellow, flashy, and the complete egotist, who thinks he is the most beautiful thing on earth, contemptuous of other Autobot race cars, especially his twin Sideswipe, and not a team player, but is very calm, competent, and a ruthless war machine. I mean, I don't know about you, but these don't exactly sound like your cookie cutter, goody two-shoes type of dudes. But see, that's what makes them cool. At least I think so. But here's where things get weird. Because when you line up what their tech specs say they're equipped with versus what their actual toys had, it starts to feel like someone at Hasbro might have shuffled a few index cards the wrong way. Sideswipe is described as having pile driver arms and a rocket backpack, neither of which his toy actually has. While Sunstreaker comes with shoulder-mounted rockets that conceivably pass as pile drivers when plugged in his arms in lieu of his fists, and car intakes that form what looks like a backpack in robot mode. Flip to Sunstreaker's bio and suddenly he's firing laser-guided rockets and high-energy electron pulses, except Sideswipe is the one who actually has a shoulder rocket launcher and a handheld weapon. Long story short, it seems that somebody back in the 80s did an oopsie and maybe possibly mixed up the brothers' profiles. I mean, could it actually be that Sunstreaker was meant to be less cold-blooded? And Sideswipe, well, the a-hole? Seriously though, if we put on our detective hats for a second, there might be more than meets the eye. To this little mix-up. And to get to the bottom of it, or at least land on a logical explanation, we've gotta rewind a bit and dig into the early history of the Transformers. Now, if you're a seasoned fan, you already know this story, but for anyone not fully down that rabbit hole yet, before these toys ever hit US shelves, most of them came from a Japanese toy line called Diaclone. And while a lot of those Diaclone car robots crossed the Pacific more or less unchanged, like the blue F1 racer who'd become Mirage, or the white Lancia Stratos with green and red trim that turned into Wheeljack, others didn't make the trip quite the same way. Before crossing the sea, a good number of these familiar bots existed in different colors, like the blue Toyota Hilux that became Trailbreaker, or, let's be honest, a headless Ironhide that still looked fugly in black. And yes, you probably see where this is going. This is also where we get a red Sunstreaker and a yellow Sideswipe. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Given that origin, it's honestly pretty easy to imagine that the original plan was to bring these two over exactly as they were. Red Sunstreaker as Sideswipe, and yellow Sideswipe as Sunstreaker, and somewhere along the way, a Hasbro exec who probably thrives on chaos decided to swap them. And then forgot to tell the tech spec writer, and voila, we got what we got. Mystery solved. Probably. But here's the thing, that little mix-up isn't actually what this episode is about. What I really want to dig into are those red Sunstreaker and yellow Sideswipe versions themselves. Toys that could have easily ended up as weird footnotes in Transformers history, if not for Hasbro and Takara's deep, abiding love of making easy money at minimal production cost. Because through the years, a good number of those original Diaclone color variants would eventually make their way into the Transformers universe as fully fledged, totally new characters, including our mixed up Lambo bros. And that's what we're here for today, the other Lamborghini Transformers, starting right at the beginning with the alternate reality versions of our favorite twins, who finally got names of their own, Tigertrack and Spinout. So, the yellow Sideswipe, aka Tigertrack, officially became a Transformer in 2003, when his very first toy was released as a mail-away exclusive through the Japanese hobby magazine Figure O. And while he shares the exact same mold as Sideswipe, character-wise, he couldn't be more different. Tigertrack isn't your typical charming rule breaker. In fact, if you're planning something sneaky, like solemnly swearing you are up to no good, yeah, he already knows, and will probably be first bought to stop you. He's an Autobot built entirely around vigilance. His official function is that of a sentry, which means he possesses the power of 1 million exploding suns. Wait, sorry. Wrong sentry. Which means Tigertrack guards high-value targets and locations where mistakes simply are not allowed. And thanks to his hyperactive sensory systems, he's one of the hardest Autobots to fool. In every situation, Tigertrack can accurately pinpoint the location of external threats. His eyesight, in particular, is so acute that it can instantly pierce through any kind of equipment, obstacles, or enemies. Darkness, storms, camouflage, illusions, none of that works on him. He is also a cunning hunter who silently closes in on his prey, which is why his motto fits perfectly. Even if you can't see it, I can see it clearly. In the Japanese Legends continuity, Tigertrack often works alongside the Autobot Stripes, who is basically an orange Ravage repaint with black stripes. So, a tiger, very subtle, very on the nose. And eventually, because the universe apparently has a sense of humor, Tigertrack ends up teaming up and bonding closely with the red Sunstreaker, Spinout. The two find themselves running fast-paced missions on Velocitron, proving that while Tigertrack is best known for standing watch, he's more than capable when it's time to move fast. Which brings us to the other side of this mixed-up Lambro coin, Spinout. Now, even before he officially became a Transformer, the red Sunstreaker already carried some serious weight in Japan. In the original Diaclone line, this toy was kind of a big deal. It was the very first release in the car-robo subline, which focused on robots that transformed into realistic real-world vehicles. According to Hasbro, the Diaclone version, designed by Kojin Ono, was the first fully realized toy ever made to transform from a humanoid robot into an actual car. In other words, it's basically the grandparent of every Transformer that followed. Appropriately enough, the original toy carried the product number 1. And later, homages even stamped CR01 on the license plate, just in case you forget who started all of this. What's especially cool is that this real-world toy history gets folded directly into Spinout's in-universe origin, because as Spinout, he literally started out as CR01, a machine piloted by humans exactly like in the original Diaclone fiction. After a space-time accident yanks him into another universe, a Cybertronian AI converts him into a living robot, giving him true consciousness for the first time in forever. Millions of years later, he's awakened by the Autobots, who are understandably confused by an Earth car from deep prehistory suddenly waking up and asking questions. Closely monitored at first, the Autobot, now known as Spinout, interestingly a pre-production name for Sunstreaker, quickly proves himself loyal, brave and deeply empathetic. He forms a mighty bond with Tigertrack, seeing him as an hermano, while quietly carrying the weight of knowing he once couldn't function without a human pilot, and wondering if that somehow makes him lesser. Regardless, fully accepted, newly armed, and driven by empathy for others stuck between identities, Spinout joins the fight because compassion, survival, and choosing to keep going is kind of his whole thing, which is so not Sunstreaker. Anyway, aside from giving us familiar faces in different colors, another thing I've noticed Diaclone was really into was the police, like really into police decos. If they could slap some black and white paint and a siren onto a cool car, they absolutely would. Which means that while for a time he was El Capo solo on US shelves, back in Japan, Prowl wasn't the only police car in the lineup. And here's the kicker, he wasn't even the first. After CR02, the black one-box cherry vanette that would eventually become Ironhide, Takara made a hard U-turn and decided to double dip on the red Lambo mold for CR03, giving us the Countach LP500S patrol car type, or in plain English, police-deco Sunstreaker. And honestly, as a kid, that thing was the coolest thing in the world. And also the toy I was most bummed about never becoming a Transformer. So bummed, in fact, that years later I straight up invented my own version of a police Sunstreaker, complete with dual-wielding pistols and jazz-like visor, because I mean, everyone looks cooler with a jazz visor. Meet Warrant. Primary function, dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking rich, cherry pie scarfing down boy. Just kidding. Crime scene investigation. Originally a law enforcement officer and icon, Warrant adapted easily to his new role as Autobot liaison to earthen police forces. He's obsessed with details, intensely so, and will comb through crime scenes for hours using a dizzying array of optical and olfactory sensors. He refuses to act until he's gathered enough evidence to get a solid lead, seeing anything less as a complete waste of time, which naturally drives less patient teammates crazy. Those types would much rather he shoot first and ask questions later. He's highly intelligent, processes data fast, and carries a stun rifle capable of paralyzing suspects with excellent accuracy up to 400 feet. That said, his Cybertronian background sometimes causes him to underestimate or flat out misread human intentions and motives. As his own saying goes, if you chase two turbo foxes, both will escape. Eventually though, Takara made things official by finally christening police car Sunstreaker as Cordon, one of the Autobot's strangest reserve troopers. Not because of what he can do, but because of what he can't remember. Cordon suffers from reoccurring amnesia, regularly losing his memories, including his sense of long-term right and wrong. Oddly enough, his skills never fade, leaving him with an ever-growing list of abilities he doesn't remember learning. His story begins in Cybertron's ancient past, after the planet freed itself from its alien creators, the Quintessons. During early experiments with new Cybertronian bodies, his data was stored at the Diadem facility until a bombing wiped out much of it. Ever since, Cordon's been stuck in a cycle of forgetting, wandering, and starting over. After a battlefield encounter, the Autobots recruited him, but his memory lapses raised serious concerns. Instead of imprisoning him, they sentenced him to 50 first dates. Sorry, couldn't help it. 300 years of community service, assigning him to protect a human settlement as a Lamborghini police car. Despite early suspicion, Cordon earned the settlers' trust and even turned down a Decepticon recruitment attempt. Later, when offered the chance to restore his memories or upgrade his body, Cordon refused both, believing he might not like the person he used to be. Even so, he kept serving, eventually joining the fight against the Fallen during the Train Wars and helping secure victory. Cordon may forget who he was, but he never forgets to serve. And speaking of service, if this video is doing its job and entertaining you, the easiest way to return the favor is the usual stuff. Like, comment, share, and sub. It sounds small, but it genuinely helps keep this channel visible and alive, and lets me keep making deep dives like this without selling my soul to the algorithm gods. That being said, whichever way you choose, your help and support are greatly appreciated, so thank you. And so back to our story, where I don't think that it's a surprise that Cordon wasn't the end of Diaclone's police obsession, because wouldn't it be a complete cop-out to stop at one police Lamborghini when you can very clearly have two? The inevitable police version of the Sideswipe mold technically did make it to US shelves as part of the second wave of Autobot cars in 1985. With a twist, since Hasbro was already pretty happy with having a single Autobot cop in Prowl, Police Sideswipe quietly had his badge taken away and was reassigned from law enforcement to fire prevention. And that's how we ended up with Red Alert instead. Same car, same lights, totally different job description. But ultimately, you can't keep a good police deco down. So in 2003, that version finally became an official Transformer 2 in Japan as part of an e-hobby exclusive set where he was properly introduced as Clampdown, an Autobot whose entire existence revolved around law, order, and more importantly, enforcing it. Sent to Earth as part of the Interplanetary Personal Exchange Program, he works closely with the Tokyo Metropolitan Police and Officer Miko Tezuka. Don't worry, it's a completely professional relationship. No kissing here. Clampdown is earnest, disciplined, and deeply committed to justice, especially when violent crime is involved, where hesitation simply isn't an option for him. But his worldview is rigid, shaped by war, and that rigidity causes friction. Cultural differences, legal nuance, and moral gray areas frustrate him, often putting him at odds with civilians and even fellow Autobots. That tension follows him everywhere. For Clampdown, maintaining or restoring order is everything. Whether that means policing a reckless interplanetary race or arresting Autobots who step out of line, his dedication is never in question. His flexibility, however, absolutely is. And his equipment reflects that mindset: an automatic handgun, a missile launcher, and flashbang grenades built for control, not spectacle. Because as far as Clampdown is concerned, peace doesn't just happen, someone has to enforce it, whether anyone likes it or not. So, naturally, once you realize there are two police Lambros, you'd assume they'd be the perfect pairing, right? Except, you'd be wrong. Because while Cordon and Clampdown sound like a match made in Cybertronian law enforcement, Clampdown's actual partner is someone else entirely. Remember when I mentioned that Clampdown officially became a Transformer when he was released as part of a Japanese e-hobby exclusive set? Yeah, he didn't come alone. He was released alongside his brother, a black repaint of the Sideswipe mold that was originally only available as part of a Powered Convoy DX set, named Deep Cover, an Autobot built for the shadows. Deep Cover's function is that of a special investigator. He may turn into a supercar, but everything about him screams, or is that whispers, covert ops, rather than open confrontation. So while Clampdown enforces the law in public, Deep Cover makes sure trouble never reaches that stage. Years of undercover work have taken their toll though, as while Deep Cover is still fiercely committed to protecting the innocent, he carries the weight of secrets, false identities, and long missions spent pretending to be someone else. It's a quieter kind of heroism, less about speeches, more about endurance, and he's built for it. Illusion projection, sound collection, instant high-speed transformation, and even the ability to shrink down to 1/40th of his normal size make him ideal for solo infiltration. When a job needs subtlety, Deep Cover goes in alone. He's the Autobot who gets the job done quietly and carries it with him long after the mission's over. Interestingly enough, Deep Cover wouldn't end up being the only black repaint of Sideswipe in the entire Transformers universe. And for the second one, we have to jump to the 90s, specifically Generation 2, an era where everything was hardcore and drenched in neon colors. Everything except, apparently, Generation 2 Sideswipe. Okay, fine, so the toy had a little bit of neon green, but whatever. Now, I know this might sound like a bit of a cop-out, but hear me out. This reversed color sideswipe, where everything that used to be red is now black and everything that was black is now red, is in pretty much every meaningful way treated as a completely different character from the original Sideswipe. G2 Sideswipe is both a clean break and a familiar echo. He's younger, more impulsive, and far more optimistic, and apparently the type of dude who would wear spiked wheels on his shoulders and wield much more firepower and ammunition. And part of the first generation of Cybertronians born after the Great War, while still carrying the name and legacy of an Autobot who lived through it. In some stories, he's literally a clone created by Jyaxis as part of a planned second generation of Cybertronians. The IDW continuity reframes that idea into something a lot more hopeful. Here, G2 Sideswipe is one of the first sparks born on Cybertron in millions of years. Fragile new Transformers who develop inside the Titan Trypticon, hidden away from politics and manipulation. He's named Sideswipe by RC in memory of her fallen friend, the OG Lambro who didn't survive the war, neatly tying the future directly to the past. And as a quick side tangent, Generation 2 Sideswipe was actually slated to get another repaint, this time leaning way harder into that full-blown neon 90s madness. Thankfully, that version never saw the light of day. That is, until 2023, when this dude was released as part of the Legacy Evolution Toxitron collection. And with that toy mentioned, I guess this is as good a time as any to do a quick run through of all the plastic incarnations of these other Lambros through the years. Because if there's one word that redefines this entire family tree, it's repaint. Seriously, whenever Sideswipe or Sunstreaker gets a notable or landmark release, you can almost set your watch to it. The other Lambros are coming, inevitably, in slightly different colors. It's just how the universe works. Take the super tune-accurate MP39 Sunstreaker. It was retooled into the more toy-accurate MP42 Cordon in 2018, followed by MP39 Plus Spinout in 2020. And even before Spinout was actually a thing, third-party company Bad Cube jumped the gun with their own red Sunstreaker take, Sentinel Blaze, back in 2017. Going further back, MP12 Lambor, or Sideswipe, spawned an entire repaint dynasty. MP12T Tigertrack in 2013, MP12G Lambor G2 version in 2014, and MP14C Clampdown in 2015. For whatever reason, poor Deep Cover never got that full masterpiece treatment. But don't feel too bad for him. He scored 2 repaints out of the 2019 War for Cybertron Siege Sideswipe mold in 2021, and even managed a blink and you'll miss it cameo in the War for Cybertron trilogy on Netflix, making him the only other Lambro beside the main brothers that I know of to show up in animated Transformers media. Well, at least until Transformers 1, I guess, where basically everyone was an Easter egg. But I digress. The real takeaway here is that the Siege Sideswipe mold and its inevitable retooled Earth Mode Kingdom version has gone down as one of the most reused and most repainted molds in Transformers history. So let's have some fun and count some repaints, shall we? Tigertrack, the aforementioned 2 deep covers, G2 Sideswipe, G2 Universe Sideswipe, Clampdown, Shattered Glass Sideswipe, Armada Wheeljack, and Gigawatt. Wait, Giga who? Okay, strap in kiddos for this one. Gigawatt is a former Decepticon from a future where Megatron already won. Humanity is enslaved and the Autobots are long dead. After seeing that nightmare up close, he defects, steals time travel tech, and keeps throwing himself into broken timelines to protect humans and undo the damage, even when it ultimately costs him his own life. Awkward and empathetic, Gigawatt is that rare ex-villain who saw what happens when no one steps in, and decided to be the one who does. And in case that alt mode and the name of this heavy Sideswipe retool didn't give it away, Gigawatt is what happens when Transformers crosses over with Back to the Future, a robot that straight up transforms into the iconic DeLorean time machine. But back to repaints, because of course, not to be left out, Sunstreaker's Earthrise mold got its obligatory repaints as well, with a Generation Selects 2-pack in 2020 featuring Spinout and Cordon. Speaking of Cordon, as of this writing, he also has the cool distinction of being the only other Lambro to receive the missing link treatment in 2025. Basically the original Diaclone toy, but now with modern articulation. And honestly, completely unbiased opinion, it's perfect. That said, the fact that there's still no missing link Spinout is a real head scratcher. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the police-deco Cordon, but skipping a fully articulated CR01 feels like a missed opportunity to pay homage to the very first ever car-robo toy. Oh well. Speaking of which, how much of a missed storytelling opportunity was it to have this dude not go full-on traitor against the Autobots? If you want to know more about the Autobot Mirage and his questionable loyalties, I've got his story here. Or if you want my latest story, I've got that one over here. Either way, thanks for watching, and I hope to hear from you in the comments below. Who is your favorite other Lambro? Go ahead and tell me your story.